What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Mr. Plays, and today I will be doing a review for Metroid Dread. So Metroid Dread didn't come out too long ago. It wasn't too long since it came out. It's been about a month, and I've played this game a good amount, and it's a really fun game. I'm gonna say that. So in this video, I'm just going to be reviewing it, tell you what I think about it, and tell you if I think how I liked it, what parts I didn't like, and then I'll just be telling you overall how good the game was. So first off, let's talk about the gameplay. So here I'll mostly talk about like the mechanics, movement mechanics, combat mechanics, stuff like that. Then also just like all the stuff that has to do with gameplay. So first, let's talk about the combat mechanics. So I am pleasantly surprised by the combat in this game. It is absolutely amazing. The dash melee counter is so smooth for so many different things, fighting just normal enemies and also fighting bosses, especially the final boss. And then the free aim mechanic is really helpful for hitting precise points, and everything just feels very smooth in the combat. All the combat in the boss fights is really smooth, feels so good. It's so good to fight as Samus in this game, whether it's against bosses, against normal enemies, and it's just so great. I love all the new mechanics that they added for this new 2D Metroid, and also keeping the old mechanics that worked very well. And so now, let's talk about the boss fights, and the boss fights are all designed very well. It's very intuitive where the weak points are that you need to hit and how to counter the boss. You'll always know how to avoid damage from different attacks. Pretty much every single boss attack in this game is avoidable. There's like a couple that seem practically unavoidable, but the bosses don't throw those too much, so it's not that big of a deal. Then also, the different attacks that they do are just a lot of fun, and also the boss fights are really challenging, but it's also really fun at the same time. Unless you're like absolutely insane, you're going to take a few tries on these fights, which is really good. The developers did a great job with the combat. It feels very smooth, very clean, and it's a lot of fun. And now the movement mechanics. So the movement mechanics are also absolutely amazing. The slide is a great addition, making for the amazing mechanics of sliding under enemies, bosses, and walls, and also sometimes just getting out of the way of stuff. My only problem with the movement mechanics is if you do double jump or like space jump, it won't work sometimes if you jump straight up and you don't move side to side at all, which I really would have hoped, so you could like sort of jump straight up. You don't need to be like running, because sometimes it's hard to get to a thing if you're just right underneath it. You need to like go back and then go back in. But that's my only problem. Other than that, the movement through the game is really wonderful. It's amazing. And then lastly, for gameplay, let's talk about the Emmy zones. So I personally love the addition of the Emmys. The creative directors did a great job adding a new element to the game without making it a central, integral part of the game. Love that the Emmys are only in their own zone area, so it's not like a constant threat throughout the whole game. That would just be way too stressful. But the Emmy zones are really fun. You really have to move and think very quickly, and then you have the constant fear of being captured. It's so like stressful when you just hear the beeping noise from the Emmys, and you're just like, oh no, where are they? They're gonna get me. And then also, it's really cool they added that it is possible to counter the Emmys and stop them, but it's super hard to do. Because I feel like Emmys, they should be practically an instant death unless you're insane at countering. So the developers made the counter mechanic challenging enough, but not so challenging that like you can absolutely never get it. And doing the counter just gives such a feeling of satisfaction because of how hard it is to do, and feels so great when you do it. And the enemies, they just add a great new element of stealth to the game, while it still feels very Metroid. Next, let's talk about progression through the game. I feel the rate of progression and ability to progress is done near perfectly. The game does a great job of leading the player in the right direction to progress to the next part of the story. You still have to do a good amount of problem solving to figure it out on your own, but that's what Metroid's all about, and the game still gives subtle hints here and there to lead you in the right direction towards the solutions. Whenever I felt like I had no clue where to go, I would always find out where to go, and it felt so good. Sometimes I had a problem with putting the game down because of how much I loved it, and whenever I would get the next thing, I'd be like, oh, I gotta go forward with it. Whenever I get a new ability, I'd be like, oh, what can I do now? What can I open up? And I'd like look around the map, and it'd be great. Progression through the map is very logical and clear. It always leads you to the right spot you need to be in the next area. The map is set up very well, so with so much detail, which enables the player to precisely see where they've been, where they haven't been, what they can and can't access, and where they need to go. The only problem with the progression is it feels like towards the end of the game, new abilities are thrown at you really, really fast, so you don't tend to use those new abilities at the end very much. That's really my only progression-based complaint. The progression, I feel like for the most part, is done very well, except at the end, it's a bit too fast, but besides that, it's great. Now let's talk about the story of the game. For me, when I play video games, I don't care too much about the story, because my whole thought is, if I want to experience a really good story, I'll go watch a movie or turn on a TV show. But that's just me. Some people will really care about story in video games. So what I thought is the story is very good. There's some cool plot twists. I like the way the story went, and I continued off of the story of the prequel to it as well. So now I'll give brief story spoilers, so skip to this time to avoid the spoilers. My only problem with the story is that as I watched the final few cutscenes, I was overwhelmingly reminded of Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, Samus is Ravenbeak's daughter, Luke is Vader's son. Ravenbeak literally references, I'm going to bring order to the galaxy. I mean, the parallels are a little bit much, but besides that one complaint, I did not mind the story at all. I find it very enjoyable. The story was definitely not a distraction from playing the video game, which is really all I care about. So now I'll quickly talk about the performance of the game. So with it being on the Switch, it is very high quality. Of course, not as high quality as like Xbox, PS5 games, but it's still really good. I don't remember the game ever really dropping a frame, which is important with all the quick combat that you have to do. Performance is very good. The lag or bugs practically never get in the way of the game, which is really important. Then also the detail put into this game is also insane. There's so much going on in the background of so many different areas. Samus looks absolutely amazing. All of her suits look beautiful. The enemies all look amazing. The enemies look great. Everything just looks so beautiful, and you can tell that they put so much effort into making this game not just feel good and play good, but also just look amazing. So overall, this game is amazing. Maybe one of my favorite games of all time. It was so much fun to play through. It said that it took me about 7.5 hours to get through the first playthrough, and that wasn't a 100% run. That was just a normal run through, just for a first completion. So I feel like that's a really good amount of time for a game like this, taking about 7.5 hours to get through it all. It's not like too long. It's not like a 20-hour game or something, but it's also not like, it wasn't like I finished and I felt like, oh, that's it. So it was a great length. It was so much fun to play through. The game looks amazing, feels so smooth to play, has so many fun new mechanics while still sticking to the normal Metroid formula. I would give this game a 9.5 out of 10, and I definitely recommend picking up right now and playing through all of it. Maybe even doing a 100% run if you feel like that. And so thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you did enjoy, please be sure to smash that like button. And if you enjoy these types of videos, please be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you do not miss any of our uploads, so you get notified when we upload a video. And until next time, peace!